How you guys doing? Welcome to today's video. Last week, there was a new reserve that came out. We're going to be doing the missions, so let's get into it. Now, anytime they talk, I will be turning my mic off, just so that you guys can hear it better. So I'm going to turn it off whenever we first load in, because I know Remy Warren will want to be talking, or is going to talk. Now, I've been hearing if they get out, people that get out or like get off the reserve,
Welcome to where I call home. I've been roaming these parts since I was old enough to, well, roam. There isn't a mountain or lake out here that hasn't been explored by either me or my dad. I hope that you get a chance to fall in love with Silver Ridge Peaks. If you're anything like me, it won't take long. I hope you got a chance to grab a big breakfast before heading out. There's a lot of ground to cover and it's tough on an empty stomach. Anyway, I'm sure you'll be glad to know that I already have a job for you. While things are quiet, I've been using our outpost to store essential supplies. There is an outpost not far from you that has a small stockpile of bottled water and canned goods. I need you to grab some things from this outpost and ferry them over to one of our observation towers. Don't worry, it's not a long journey. You'll be back to hunting in no time. Before now, we've always just used the lakes for drinking water. But ever since Dad got ill, we've had to put emergency measures in place. We always had emergency supplies, of course. But now we need to account for the possibility that our entire water table is polluted. Dad and I are convinced that it's just the one lake, polluted by the old mining sump next to it. But it's taking forever to get tests done, and it's not worth the chance of someone else getting sick. The supplies should be laid out, ready for you to pick them up. We need at least 6 water bottles, a couple of cans of peaches or whatever we've got there. And there should be a stack of flyers. Grab them too. You got everything? Fantastic. The tower isn't too far to go from here. Fantastic. That tower should have everything it needs now. How's the view from up there? It's great to have a hunter like yourself around. I'm grateful for your help with the supplies. I can't wait to hear your Silver Ridge hunting stories. Things have been quiet here recently. But with a hunter of your caliber on the reserve, we're going to show folks that this is still the best place in the Rockies to hunt. Plus, you're not the only one working with us. We were able to convince Remy Warren to visit, and he's been logging his solo hunts out here for a week or so. He's got a pretty decent following online, so hopefully he's impressed with the reserve. When I proposed using social media to promote the reserve, the board were a little hesitant. But they're giving us a chance to try something new, and I'm sure it'll be worth it. So I suppose you were wondering why I wanted you to grab the flyers, right? There are people who come out here just to visit the lake. I'm fine with people standing on the shore, but until we know exactly what's going on, we need to keep people out of it. I had these flyers made up so we can pin them to our bulletin boards. There's a trail that leads straight to the lake, so I'd like you to pin up one of these flyers at the trailhead. Now, the flyers cover the basics: heavy metals, mining waste, and why to avoid diving in. It's not much, but until we know more, it's all we have. The lake is beautiful, and it's always pulled in visitors. It still looks the same as it ever did. Maybe even better, now that it's calm and peaceful. But now, I can't look at it without seeing what it did to my dad, or what it's doing to the reserve. People discover that we have one contaminated lake and assume that the reserve isn't worth visiting anymore. So far, the local wildlife seems okay, but our bookings for visitors, and especially hunters, have dried up. I have a few contingency plans that I want to try out. I'm a little nervous, though, as our board can be a little conservative. And if my ideas don't involve pulling in hunters, it can be really tricky to get them on board. It was easier to convince the board to invite yourself and Remy into the reserve, given that you're both hunters with good reputations. I'm glad you said yes. One
Oh,
down,
there we go.
one to go. Keep following the trail to the lake. We might not be able to monitor the lake 24/7, but at least now people have been warned.
Okay, let's go find
Thanks for
the
taking
last
care of
guy.
that. It's such a strange feeling to be publicizing the very issue that is hurting us at the moment. I know it's the responsible thing to do, but it still feels slightly like self-sabotage. Our summer season has already started, and normally this whole area would be covered with hikers. I've only seen a handful of people in the reserve recently. I'm sure that things will pick up eventually, but every day I'm reminded that my dad was the major driving force behind this place. It's just bad timing, I suppose. We'd had some other issues with one of the board members, but that's in the past. The best thing to do is to keep pushing forward. I've got some big plans to help turn things around. Who knows? Maybe we'll have this place at full strength by the time my dad gets back in the saddle. I'm talking a lot about family stuff, aren't I? I suppose work and family are the same thing for me, you know? I've been watching my dad do this job since I was a kid. Let's change the subject, shall we? I've got a job that I'd like you to take care of. The big plans I mentioned before? One of these plans is a little passion project of mine. We're gonna need some gear. Rappelling gear, actually. I have stashed a few bags at one of the nearby outposts, and I'd like you to head over there and pick them up, when you can. I've been doing adventure sports for about 10 years or so now. It started with bouldering and rock climbing while I was on a high school trip. Last year, I got an accreditation as an instructor, and I was planning on teaching classes. When my dad got ill, I put it on the back burner. But now, I think we have a good opportunity to commit to it. Unfortunately, I'm a little too busy to teach classes just now. But one of my base jumping friends, Sammy, took the same course as me, so she's gonna lead the class instead. You got everything? There's a good rock face nearby that Sammy can use to teach her beginners. If I recall correctly, you also have some mountain climbing experience. I get it. Those mountain goats aren't easy to catch. There's some good anchoring points at the top of the rock face. If you can get those ropes nice and secure, it'll save Sammy some time and help the class. Truth be told, I've wanted to start an extreme sports group here for a long time, but the old chairman of the board pushed back against anything that wasn't hunting. He was very old-fashioned, though. The patriarch of the Simpkins Electronics Empire. He even forced his vegan animal rights activist son, Timothy, to come with him on hunting trips to Africa. Accused the activist of brainwashing his son. The family reputation around here dropped quite dramatically when my dad caught Timothy drinking and dealing drugs inside the reserve. Simpkins actually used his power on the board to keep my dad quiet. But the next time my dad caught Tim in the reserve, he wasn't just dealing drugs. He had been poaching. Dad called it in without even telling Simpkins Sr. Of course, he was furious. Tried to get my dad fired, actually. But all credit to the board. They stuck with my old man. All these changes I want to make will hopefully account for the loss of the Simpkins' money and influence. This is just the start, too. I'm proposing snowboarding and extreme skiing for the winter. I've got some friends who I'd love to invite over to shoot some videos. Could be fun, don't you think? Anyway, if the rappelling goes well and makes a little money, I think the old folks on the board will start to come around.
Tons of ice and tracks up here.
That looks great. I doubt I could have done a better job myself. Don't let the ropes down. We don't need them getting all tangled up. I really appreciate your help with this one. It's been an uphill battle to get to this point, and I'm disappointed that I can't be there to run the classes myself. If I'm being honest, I have a lot invested in the classes going well. There's still some people on the board who are friends with the old chairman, and it seems pretty clear that they don't like me proposing new ideas. Anyway, I'll let Sammy know that we're good to go. I trust her to take care of it. Hey, so listen, there might be a situation going on at the moment, and I could really use your help to check it out. It's not just gold and silver mining that took place out here. Even more recently, there was a working uranium mine in the area. When the reserve was established, we took responsibility for keeping it safe. Anyway, the old uranium mine is very rarely a problem, But recently, it appears that one of our neighbors, a guy I went to school with actually, has been spotted camping out around the mine. His name's Bobby Joe Jefferson. He's normally just a nuisance, driving his quad bike around and setting up little shooting ranges with tin cans. He makes the deer and turkeys extra skittish, so the hunters hate him. Can you head over to the mine and see what's going on? He's allowed to hike and camp there, but I don't want him going anywhere near the entrance itself. Okay, first things first. Let's make sure that the mine itself is still secure.
Okay.
This looks intact, at least. That's got to be a good sign. A trail camera? I've used these for work and for hunting before. This one shouldn't be here, though. We don't want hunters so close to the mine. Grab the camera.
Oh, mine's probably there. Is there something else I'm missing here?
I don't really understand what's going on with the cameras, but at least the entrance is secure. Let's go find his camp, shall we?
Okay.
It was actually Remy that called this one in. He doesn't know who Bobby Joe is, but I knew who it was as soon as Remy described him. Another trail camera. Bobby Joe doesn't have a permit to hunt here.
Uh-oh.
Is he poaching?
I gotta deal with another poacher. Because the savannah, we had to deal with the poacher at the end with the rhino. And I think we might have to deal with another poacher here. Great. At least his camp's farther away. Is that an outpost? I think so. Yeah, that's an outpost. I'll go there after grabbing this. I don't know why I didn't use the outpost if it's so close. Why would I use the outpost? Ooh, what's this?
That looks like his camp. Any sign of him?
Bighorn sheep. Nice.
There's nothing quite like bighorn sheep hunting. They have incredible eyesight, can detect movement over great distances, and are equally comfortable in alpine meadows and mountain slopes. So it's always difficult, but those horns are worth it. My advice is to stay well back and catch them unaware on lower ground before they have a chance to disappear up the tree line.
Mining. Pick it up. Maybe this will show us why he's out here. Not good news. I'll be honest. I never credited Bobby Joe with this much imagination in high school. Replant the sign, and we're done here for now. You know what makes this extra weird? He actually has done some detective work. Enough to convince himself to camp here.
Okay, so after we go replant the sign, I'm gonna go down there and climb that outpost just to make sure, or just to have the outpost if it is an outpost, which I'm thinking it is. Unless it's an outpost that has to do with one of the missions.
Hopefully that's the last one. Pick him up and I'll put him in our lost and found when I can take him from you. Hopefully that's the last one. Pick him up and I'll put him in our lost and found when I can take him from you. The sign's back up? Great. This mine has never been a problem before. But let's not take any chances. Me and my dad have been dealing with Bobby Joe for years, but this is new. I know he's a nuisance, but I always felt sorry for him. He had a pretty tough upbringing. I don't want to call the police, but I have to. He's armed and known for making poor choices.
Okay, well, let's go down here.
It would appear that it's not just the neighbors that are making questionable calls today. Sometimes folks from the city will drive out here to get away from work or their personal lives or whatever happens to be bothering them. The problem is that sometimes, quite often actually, people wander into the wilderness without a clue of how to survive if things go wrong. Not that there's anything wrong with that, of course. And based on a couple of phone calls I've had from the hospital today, I think that someone has made a mess and could use some help.
Great.
I was going to check in on them myself, but I need to coordinate with the police on this Bobby Joe thing, and you're already really close by. Can you head over to the campgrounds nearby and check in on them? The phone calls were sporadic at best. As far as I can tell, this professional yoga and meditation expert has led a group of accountants from Denver into the wilderness on some sort of spiritual retreat.
Oh boy.
She took their cell phones away from them and had them eating wild flowers and berries. Some of them got sick and have gone directly to the hospital. I know that we're not the reason why this happened, but it could look very bad for us if anyone gets seriously hurt. I'd appreciate if you'd hustle. That's weird. I expected a lot more activity here. They said they were bringing 20 people. Where is everyone? Is the leader in her tent? She goes by Jem. Jem Botten. Can you hear the phones ringing? I guess we know where she hid them then. The accountants have left. This is an absolute disaster to make sure they got back to their cars safely. Accountants and a lone woman climbing a non-specific mountain. Next time someone tries to run a retreat out here, I'm gonna make them hire a professional guide.
This is exactly the sort of thing I find myself fighting uphill against. It's hard to get going when stuff like this keeps... Okay, first things first. We need to figure out where Bodden's gone. I'll try to reach some of the accountants back at the hospital. Maybe they can help. I get the distinct feeling that she hasn't packed hiking boots or proper equipment for a climb. Maybe she'll turn back soon. I'll let you know if I hear anything, okay? Today continues to throw up challenges for us. I have another job for you, and this one is urgent. We received a call from one of our neighbors, Norman, asking if we'd seen his dad, a longtime friend of the reserve. Apparently he's gone missing and he's taken all the family camping supplies with him. Around the same time, 2 hikers reported to us that they spotted a single old man laden down with gear, heading into a part of the reserve that is known for its bears. When they asked him if he needed any help, he politely declined and kept walking. Their description matches old Ted perfectly. Short white hair, green rain slicker, and brown leather boots. No gun. I'm trying to get a hold of Norman, but he said that he'd make some more calls just in case Teddy's gone to visit friends. I'm just getting his voicemail at the moment. While I sort this out, can you head over to where the hikers saw him and try to follow old Teddy's trail? He knows his way around here, so I have no idea why he'd wander into the country. You found where the hikers spotted him. That's good news. Listen, I got a hold of Norman and he's on his way out here. But he's a couple of hours drive away. I told him that we were looking for his dad. Norman's really worried. He thinks that Ted has had a breakdown. Ted's wife, Jeannie, died a couple of weeks ago, and since the funeral, Ted hasn't been himself. The family were giving him as much space as they could, but now they're worried that he's fully isolated himself and he's made some bad decisions that have led him here. Norman took a trip to visit him, but when he arrived, Ted was gone and so was his car. Norman remembers his dad saying that he proposed to Jeannie during a trip to Silver Ridge Peaks 45 years ago. That whole region is a beautiful valley, but no Nobody goes out there unarmed while the bears are roaming around. It might be a long shot, but can you gear up with whatever you need and head into bear country as soon as possible? If Ted's looking for where he proposed almost a half a century ago, I just hope he finds it before the bears find him. I'll mark the beauty spot on your GPS. Be careful in those parts. Keep your rifle handy at all times.
Brass plug. Yep, we're ready now. Just gonna go up here. Okay, well I skipped a little bit further ahead. Probably not enough though, but I think I might actually grab the four-wheeler. So you're not gonna be able to hear me for a little bit. But I'll try not to say anything too important while I ride the four-wheeler over there. There's a lot of Rocky Mountain elk through here though. Okay, so at least that gets us a little bit closer.
This is the beauty spot. But he's gone. There's no sign of an encounter. But look, Ted was definitely here.
Yeah, the
Ted
photo.
and Jeannie, 1978. I can't even imagine what's going through his head at the moment. My dad and I used to talk about men who would seek their solace in nature. He told me that if he didn't have my mom or me around, he'd eventually have just started living out here. I didn't believe him at first, but as I've grown older, it makes more sense to me. He's running from the pain he's feeling. Out there, he doesn't need to think about anyone or anything else. He can just be alone. Norman will be here soon. I told him that his visit will include a trip to bear country, so he's got a rifle to protect himself. I'll point him to his dad's old camp for now. It makes most sense for that to be where Ted will come back to whenever he's ready. There's no tracks for you to follow, and while I don't like the idea of him wandering around, Ted clearly wants to be alone out here.
Okay, next mission, please.
I might have a lead on our missing yoga instructor. Sammy was driving home after the rappelling lesson, and she heard something that could be Ms. Bodden. She had pulled over to look under the hood of her car, and she swears she heard a scream from the woods nearby. And I asked her if it could have been an animal noise, but she seemed pretty insistent that it was a woman's scream. I know it's nothing solid to go on, but it could be what leads us to her. Can you check it out? I'll mark the spot on your GPS.
Where is that? Oh, way down there. Okay. Well, I'll see you guys when we... Okay, so we're coming up to the place. You're probably wondering, where's the four-wheeler? I kind of rolled it down a hill. That's where my health is, so I lost a little health. I rolled the four-wheeler way back down this hill, even though it's not much of a hill. as a gradual decline, but I still bolted down the hill somehow. And I do have the shotgun out, just in case. Because I have a feeling one of these missions are going to have an animal in it that it's going to have something, an animal that I have to kill.
I'm sure I don't need to remind you. This is bear country. Sure, they're normally quick to turn tail and run, but they're extremely aggressive if their cubs are nearby. It's time for maximum caution. You hear that? It's like a horn or something. Can you hear that? It's like a horn or something. An air horn app? I've heard of people trying to scare away bears and cougars with real-life air horns. Personally, I've never really trusted using sound to scare off a bear. Not permanently, at least. Well, that's the contact number I had for her. Cell phone service can be really poor out there, though. Still, she was here. Check out the bear markings on that tree. A bear! Be careful! I'm sorry to send you in there, my friend. I know you can handle a black bear, but that doesn't make it okay. Dad would never have put his people in this position. I have to be smarter. It just seems like every problem lands at once, you know? I'm trying to improve the reserve, but things keep getting in the way. Look, I'm really grateful that you've been able to help me out. If it had been me out there, things could have gone a lot worse. The important thing is Baden's safety, right? Are there any signs of where she went? Those look like fresh footprints.
Oh,
She made it out of there, heading west. Still, now she has no phone and no water bottle. Okay, got it. Not far from where you are, we have the old funicular railway. It's pretty big, and it's a tourist attraction. If Baden sees it, then maybe she'll head towards it to look for help. At the bottom of the track, there's an old shed that she could try to shelter close to. It's not much, but it's a start. Given how badly things have gone for her so far, I can only hope that she's not still planning to climb a mountain. I'm going to give the accountants another call at the hospital. See if they can't help us work out where her head is at. What the hell has happened here? It looks like the bears have been using the shed as a latrine and a scratching post. I'm meant to be taking a potential investor to tour the reserve this week. She cannot see this. Baden's not here. There's no sign of her. And I still can't get through to the accountants. They've left the hospital and don't have their cell phones. Can you put the shed back together and tidy things up a bit? I hate to do this, but there's no way I'm gonna make it out there before the tour.
Yeah, what do I gotta fix?
It might be from a bear, but why would they come here? Thanks. It's probably still gonna smell pretty bad, but at least it's not covered in bear scat. I don't see bears tearing that off.
Last night.
Bears tend to stay away from humans, and we never kept anything that would attract them inside that shed. Are there any tracks nearby? The place looked fine when I was here last week. That's unexpected. The public don't tend to drive to the funicular, and if it was one of the staff, they'd use quad bikes. This looks like it was left by a car or a truck. I think someone has vandalized our property. It doesn't make a lot of sense, though. Why would anyone come all the way out here to do this? Maybe bored teenagers? I pulled some stupid pranks when I was young, but none involved ferrying around a bunch of bear scat. Given that this has happened to the shed, I'm a little worried about the railway itself. It's a unique tourist site, over 100 years old. It leads all the way up to Prosperity, the reserve's ghost town. It used to be home to the miners who came out here during the Silver Rush. I think it's a little creepy, but tourists like it. Would you check the track out, please? I would feel a lot better knowing it's okay. What? What's going on with the rail?
Wow.
Torn up? As in removed? How did they even... It's just been ripped out of the ground. Gone. This would have taken a crew and equipment. This isn't teenagers with too much time on their hands. This is the sabotage of one of our irreplaceable attractions. I need some pictures. I'm gonna send them to the police. I'm on hold with the sheriff's office. Then I think I need to call my dad. Since it appears that someone is trying to sabotage the reserve, I need you... Hello? Yes, Sheriff Cole, please. I need you to head up to the ghost town and see if they've done any damage there. I'll check in later. Jerry, hey, thanks for picking up so fast. He's as confused as I am. But he's gonna send someone over to take a look. Let me know when you get to the ghost town. I've got a heavy feeling in the pit of my stomach.
Poachers.
They've been here as well. Damn it! They've gone from vandals to poachers and mindless animal killers. This is escalating so quickly. Who would possibly want to do this? Some disgruntled former staff member? My dad and I haven't had any trouble with any of our staff, past or present. Can you take a look around? I want to know just how much damage these guys have done. If you find an animal, take a picture and send it my way, please. I'll save this for the police. Thanks. Good work. Got it.
I really want to get my hands on whoever did this.
Another one? How long did this take them, I wonder?
I wonder how many there are. Any more? Come on, there's gotta be another one somewhere. So it hasn't updated it, my thing yet. So there's 4 of them. Is there any I missed? Yeah. It's right next to the rug up here. Okay. Oh, that's not good. I don't like that. Do not like it.
Is that the last of them? Hopefully this is the only place. Was that a door opening? Are they still here? Be careful. We know they're armed. What's that sound? It's horrible. Those sounds... like animals dying. End hunting now. What? Is this some kind of activist? I don't buy it. I know we hunt animals, but making a quick, clean kill is paramount for us. Take a picture of the text and send it over. This was... something else. Needless cruelty. All to send us a message. How the hell has this happened with the others? How did we go from thinking this was kids being a nuisance to armed poachers killing and torturing animals? The deputy sheriff is on her way over now. Listen, I don't think it's best for you to be chasing these people down now. They're armed, and they don't seem to care much for ethics or responsibility. I'd like you to get out of there, and the police will take over. Where you might find something that can help us. These people seem to know exactly how to hurt us. They've targeted our unique tourist spots and our animals. There's a fossil excavation site that I was planning to show our investor as well. It's abandoned just now as the college ran out of funding for the dig last year, but we've been keeping it safe for when they come back. It's basically just a shed and a hole, but it represents a good opportunity to interact with the local community and college. Tourists don't go there, but it's a big part of raising the reserve's profile in a way that doesn't involve hunting. Can you head over there and make sure everything is still locked up and secure? It's not good for our reputation if we can't protect a tiny dig site for you. Since the sheriff's office are all discussing what's been going on up here, it turns out that they've been sharing notes. One of the deputies actually pulled over a truck, just outside the reserve. The truck was hauling a short chunk of rail track and 2 big heavy railway sleepers.
Yeah, that's Battlefront 2.
It turns out the driver runs some kind of historical
That is
museum
fun,
out
those
in
are actual
Arizona.
trees and stuff.
He claims someone called Mr. Green reached out to him and offered him the chance to take home some historic railroad. The driver was confused, but was keen to grab a piece of Gold Rush history, so he drove out to retrieve a piece yesterday. You're nearly there. It's not much,
Never
but you'll
mind, you're right,
recognize it
that's
when you see it.
Battlefront 2.
Would you
Said
start
the key
talking?
to
I'm
Sun
trying
had
to.
cut
It's
it out with a
actually
saw
recording.
and lift it with a crane. He had receipts for the whole plant rental and everything. Okay, so at least the site itself hasn't been touched. Obviously, we had nothing to do with this exchange. So the question becomes, who on earth is Mr. Green? What about the tool shed? They left an inventory, but there wasn't much in there. Just some digging tools and a rock saw. The company asked me about it, but the guy was adamant that it had all been signed off by this Mr. Green. They just tried calling his number, and it's not recognized. They're gonna get in touch with the truck driver and get back to me.
Okay.
I knew it. Of course they've been here as well. They've taken something. The rock saw is missing. I looked them up and they're like $500 brand new. This one was used and old. I doubt it's worth much. It was pretty heavy too. Have a look around. I wonder if they drove up here to get it. Gotcha. Okay. So they're in a car or truck and they've been here recently. I've got a plan, but we're gonna need to act fast. Grab a photo of those tracks and send it to me. I'm gonna round up some of my friends. Stay on the line.
Okay. Don't know what you're doing, but... Oh wait, that's not even the track I'm looking for. Is it? Okay, well, what's your brilliant idea plan?
Okay, so we're going to lock down the barricades for all of our roads. Nothing gets in or out. I've rounded up a few people to help, but I've got a gate I need you to lock up. First thing you'll need to do is grab a padlock. I keep one in the closest lookout tower to the gate. Once you're inside, look for a locker.
It's probably that place right there.
That's
so,
the tower you need to check inside. Let me know when you've grabbed the padlock.
Okay. Now we're going up sideways. Going up sideways. Going up sideways. Yeah, I know I have to go in there and get the padlock. Claiming this so we can actually look correctly straight again. Not have to cock our heads to look at it sideways. There we go. It's way down there. How wonderful. Okay, well, let's get the padlock.
You've got the padlock? Okay. Your GPS will show you where to find the right gate. We're almost there. The other roads are all locked down. Just your gate left to close. One of my friends says he arrived at his gate just as a truck was leaving. He recorded the license plate, though. The deputy's gonna take a look. Great work. If the criminals are still inside the reserve, they're gonna need to go off-road to escape. I feel better. The police are working with us now, and we have taken steps to get things back on track. The deputies share my suspicions about this being the work of animal rights activists. Sure, we get the odd email from time to time. A few years ago, my dad narrowly avoided having red paint thrown all over him by someone who had come looking for trouble. There's a group called the Activists for the Protection of Animal Rights, APAR. They've sent us some letters in the past. Thing is, it's been all calm on that front recently. And if you want to target, why us? We're not high profile. Until recently, that was my biggest problem. Plus, the sounds on that tape will be with me for a while. I don't think the person who recorded them is likely to be sensitive to animal rights. One thing I do know is that this lockdown is going to hurt us. People will talk. And I know that there are people on the board who are already considering replacing me. I do have better news, though. One of the accountants got back to me about this meditation mountain that Baden was going to climb. She's ambitious, I'll give her that. She set her sights on one of our taller mountains, Mount Ursula. The police are in charge, so we have to take the back seat for a while. In the meantime, I'd like you to have another shot at finding Baden. She must be in a pretty rough state right now. To speak to my dad about all this. He told me that while he always has my back, he plans to retire permanently from the ward position. He doesn't know what he's going to do next, but he feels that his health problems stop him from doing the job properly. If I'm being honest, I always counted on him coming back. I told him that I felt like I was
was just keeping his seat warm. I think we both knew that his recovery was going too slowly for this to be a short-term thing. He seems confident that we've got this situation covered. More confident than I am, actually. We just need to keep pushing on. Let's find Baden and bring her home safely.
Well, if you need a warden, I know my...
Look,
Okay.
that's definitely her gear. There's a yoga mat and everything. Footprints. Is that a journal? Normally I wouldn't recommend this, but maybe we should see if she's written anything that can help. That's a lot to take in. Did she say she heard noises from the tree line? Let's check it out. I'll be honest, I'm really worried about her now.
What are these prints?
Those tracks are headed straight for where she was. The police are in charge, so we have to take the back seat for a while. In the meantime, I'd like you to have another shot at finding Baden. She must be in a pretty rough state by now.
Please tell me. Oh, she came from. Okay. So please tell me she did not just climb that whole mountain. I have a feeling I should follow these backwards. Or whatever way they go. Oh.
I can't believe it.
Uh-oh.
We followed. We were so close. I need to tell the police. I should... Okay, first things first. I need to get it together. How you doing? Are you okay? I'm sorry that you're having to deal with this firsthand. I need to deal with this. But there hasn't been a death in the reserve for almost a decade. I'm gonna call my dad, so he can talk me through the next steps.
It's a bear tracks. No, give me that bear. I'm going to shoot it.
Before I start making arrangements, there's something I'd like you to do for me, if you think you're up to it. In her journal, Baden mentions winning the trip out here. In all this drama, I forgot that she wasn't just here with the retreat. She was planning on staying a little longer at one of our outposts. There was something strange about the booking. I'm gonna make some calls now, but I'd like you to go to the outpost she was going to stay at. I have an uneasy feeling about why she was here. I can't quite explain it, but I don't think it was her idea to come here. Hey, got an update for you. I was speaking with the deputy about Baden, and she's gonna send an officer up to secure the scene, take pictures, etc. Do you remember the truck that we spotted leaving the reserve just before we locked it down? Well, the deputy had some news. Turns out that the truck was stolen from a college campus in Denver just a couple of weeks ago. It gets stranger. The sheriff just got a call from a patrolman in the next county over. need you to look for any signs that she came here with an agenda that might tie into the problems we're having. Be respectful, though. The truck has been found on fire, abandoned in the middle of nowhere. It was an anonymous tip-off. I'm not an expert, but I bet that truck was the escape vehicle for our culprits. I'll let you know if the police find anything new. Didn't we already find Boden's phone in the woods? Ghost town and dig site? No. I don't believe it. That's the gear from the dig site, isn't it? Look, there's the rock saw. Did they take the blade off for safety, maybe? There's a rifle in there, too? No hunter's leaving something like that lying around.
What else was supposed to... Oh, there should be a third thing somewhere. Something else I'm missing here. Chairs? Nope. Must be inside. I'm afraid to see what's in here that
I'll be honest with you.
Out the back.
I'm struggling to keep myself under control. Her luggage. I guess it's just clothes and things. No need to open it up. Not only has someone been terrorizing the reserve, but they plan to pin it on someone else. You know, my dad said that there's a spiritual reason for what's going on. What I believe is that people have tried to hurt us, and the innocents are getting caught in the middle.
I won't disagree with that.
And the worst thing is that I have no idea who's behind it.
Well, he can talk to me. I'm gonna go there.
Composure. That's what we need now, right? We got a response from APAR. They are denying all connections to what's happening here. They say that while they have sadly been forced to euthanize animals in the past, none of their operations would ever condone the sorts of animal mistreatment that were reported. This never seemed like their MO to begin with. They kill shelter animals because they feel it's more humane than the alternative. They don't come out here to do it. Oh, and to make things even worse, I keep getting voicemails from Bobby Joe Jefferson asking me to call him back. We were able to trace the payment for Boden's accommodation. You ready for this? It came from a Green Enterprises. The company was dissolved 3 days ago. Seems like the person behind Boden's choice to come here was also the one who gave the go-ahead to rip up our railway. That's it. I've had enough from Bobby Joe. I'm gonna call him back and tell him that it's not the time. Give me a minute.
Okay. Let me get this. Get the other outpost that I have that should be there.
I have a job for you. I'm sending you details of a spot I want you to visit, but I need to deal with something just now. I'll call you back once I'm done.
It's right here. We're just gonna climb. But I'll see you back once we do this, get to there, so I'll see you back.
Do you recall the uranium mine that he was camped beside? It turns out that he was camping there because he was convinced that it was hosting some government conspiracy. Well, it turns out that someone had been up to visit the site on more than one occasion. The last time they visited, they came with a truck. Bobby was suspicious, so he tailed the truck as it moved around the reserve. Just before they left the reserve, Bobby lost sight of it as it disappeared into the woods.
Before Bobby could figure out where it had gone, the truck returned to the road and drove out of the reserve. Bobby kept tailing them. Once they were out of the county, the driver jumped out, grabbed a jerry can from the back, and doused the truck in gasoline before setting it on fire. Bobby swears to me that the guy who got out of the truck is William Simpkins Jr. Shortly afterwards, he was picked up by someone in a car that matches the description of Junior's best friend. You remember the old chairman I told you about? That's William Simpkins Sr. This is his son. I went to school with him after he got himself kicked out of his fancy prep school. Junior was pretty horrible to everyone at school, but he was especially nasty to Bobby. I won't go into details, but I wouldn't be surprised if Bobby holds a grudge. The spot I'm sending you to is the place where Bobby says the truck took a detour before leaving the reserve. The driver desperately needed to get out of here. So why take a detour? Unless it was absolutely essential. There's the break in the trees. There should be some tracks for you to follow.
Okay, let's see here. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoever it was that drove in here got out. Follow the footprints. That's it. I've had enough from Bobby Joe. I'm gonna call him back and tell him that it's not the time. Give me a minute.
Okay, so where does this lead?
I'll be by your side. And please don't cry.
Okay, come on.
That tree, it's been marked. Is that a hand? A bloody handprint?
Wait, they have tree rubs now.
That's really not a good sign.
What was on the side?
Blood is on his hands. This seems to be the end of the trail. I'm sending you details of a spot I want you to visit, but I need to deal with something just now. There's a little patch of disturbed blood on the ground. To keep following that trail. I'll call you back once I'm done. It's a rusty old saw blade. Oh, it's the saw blade that had been attached to the dig team's rock saw. But why detach it from the saw and bury it unless it was important? Take another look at the blade. It's not just rusty, is it? It's got blood on it. I'd bet it's the Vandal's blood, too. Okay, don't touch the blade. Leave it there. The deputy's on their way. They'll probably want to talk to you. I think we've just found the missing piece of the puzzle. Great work. I've got an update. Junior and his friend were just pulled over by the state police. Guess who has a nasty gash across their hand? Good morning, my friend. I hope you've enjoyed the last few days of uninterrupted peace and tranquility. I've just said goodbye to the last of the deputies team. They've gathered up all the evidence they think they'll need. While you've been busy hunting and exploring, I've been in interviews or giving statements to the police, the board, and even the local press. I haven't stopped or slowed down for what feels like at least a week now. I doubt today will be very different. I wanted to catch up with you this morning as I wanted to express my gratitude for the work you've done, and ask you for one last big favor. I know I mentioned my dad's concern that there was a more spiritual reason for why things have been tough at the reserve. I can't say that I necessarily agree with him, but I'd like to do something to make him feel better. This job involves a journey to the top of Mount Silver Ridge. I don't trust anyone else to do this. Can you make it to the start of the trail? I think I ought to tell you why I'm sending you over there, right? So, since my dad got sick and I took over the warden position, we've sort of stopped doing a lot of the things that we used to do together. Sadly, this has resulted in us both missing the bear dance back in spring. I know it means a lot to my dad, and I feel bad that we weren't able to make it. It can get pretty tense when we discuss our culture back home. Dad and I see the world through different lenses. I am proud of my heritage and where I come from, but I don't want it to define me as a person. Dad sees that as me turning my back on my community. Since we both missed the bear dance, I plan to make it up to Dad by attending the Sundance in a week's time. You're probably wondering what this has to do with you walking up a mountain, right? Just before I was born, my grandfather climbed Mount Silver Ridge and stashed a pair of quartz rattles at the top. When I was a teenager, my dad showed me them and told me that they were only to be brought down the mountain in times of dire need. I think that if I bring those rattles with me to the Sundance, Dad will appreciate that I've accepted their significance and paid respect to our beliefs. So, after helping pull the reserve back together, I'm hoping you'll help me comfort my dad. I hope I'm not asking too much.
Okay guys, so before I get down close enough to trigger him talking again, I'd like to say thank you for watching this video. I'm not going to talk anymore and just do the missions and let it finish out without me commentating them. So thank you all, and I'll see you guys later. Stay classical.
So this is it. The Silver Ridge Trail. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. I can promise you that the views from the top are worth the climb. Plus, you never know what you might be able to hunt on the way, right? While you're on your way up, why don't I fill you in on the recent news? So, first things first, Junior. I have some mixed news there. Was it Junior that terrorized the reserve? Almost certainly yes. He has, however, been released from prison after one of Daddy's lawyers stepped in to save him. He's so cocky that he actually gave an interview to a reporter, but kept using phrases like we and us, as well as the Simpkins family, which raised a few red flags. I am confident that the evidence we've gathered and Bobby Joe's testimony will help to bring the truth out, though. Anyway, in light of everything that went on here, the police are looking at the whole Simpkins family, not just Junior. I suspect that Simpkins Sr. saw an opportunity to get his payback on the APAR for brainwashing Timothy, the reserve for pushing him off the board, and on my family after my dad reported his eldest son to the police. Oh, and speaking of the board, they've really been great in the last couple of days. They've been really supportive and appreciative of how this mess has been dealt with. I'm getting a lot of the credit, but I keep telling them you were doing most of the work out there in the reserve. If there was ever any doubt from the board that I was right in hiring you, it's gone now. In fact, the work that you and Remy have done is already having a strong effect on our bookings. Next week's schedule is already filling up fast. It's amazing up there, isn't it? I've only made the climb a handful of times, but it's such a great view. The rattles should be easy to find. They're in a protective case. Mission accomplished. Thank you. This means a lot to me. Enjoy the view from the top. You earned it. Our outlook is so much brighter, just because you're here with us. When I get back from the Sundance, why don't we spend some time hunting together? The media attention has actually had some unforeseen side effects. Some government inspectors are coming out to visit the polluted lake. I guess there is such a thing as bad press, huh? I'm gonna go get ready for that meeting. Hopefully we can get things moving again. Take care. We'll catch up soon.